Thank you for joining my dissemination video for my 2022 capstone project targeting trauma-responsive education design. My name is B. Burns. I am an occupational therapy doctoral student at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis. I've had the honor and privilege of working with staff and students at Belleville Area Special Services Cooperative in Belleville, Illinois. This project was conducted under the site mentorship of occupational therapist Amanda Terstrup and program administrator Dave Workman. The main goal of this presentation is to share potential application steps with BASSC administration, related service providers, and OT capstone coordinators. This will include examples of learning outcomes and resources developed for use across BASSC programs. I also hope that this presentation will reach members of the BASSC Governing Board who are invested in quality assurance measures and community collaboration with graduate programs like WashU OT. I want to share with you the process of how school-based organizations like BASSC can become even more trauma responsive and sustain these efforts over time. A portion of this dissemination will describe the process of interprofessional collaboration among administrators from 2 instructional programs and across 3 specific school sites. This presentation can also act as a project overview for directors or board members of Belleville member school districts who are curious about specific approaches used at BASSC sites. I will debrief you on the overall process of my project and what it entailed. And lastly, I hope to demonstrate the benefits of welcoming capstone students like myself who are interested in education program improvement and development. Let's review a few guiding thoughts that framed my approach for this capstone project. We know that there is strong evidence that suggests the rising prevalence of complex trauma and exposure to negative life events among today's children and adolescents. That includes the recognition that trauma is ongoing and present among our students and staff in Illinois. The prevalence of trauma exposure among children with disabilities is higher than the average population, even though reporting rates for such experiences are much lower. Nationally, it is estimated that 14.8% of children ages 0 to 17 endured 2 or more adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, in 2019. In the same year, it was estimated that 11.3% of children ages 0 to 17 in Illinois alone experienced at least one ACE. Professional development and certified continuing education are highly regarded and emphasized across BASSC instructional programs. To inform my approach, I started with the foundational lens that educator training can act as a mediating factor for student health, emotional wellness, and resiliency, meaning it can in fact reduce the impact of trauma for our students. Finally, the concept that programmatic and school-wide strategies can be used to improve population health among staff and students largely shaped the work I targeted with BASSC. This project involved an existing relationship between WashU OT and the BASSC network, one that continuously welcomes fieldwork and capstone students to learn, collaborate, and grow with. Due to the advancements made during my Level 2 fieldwork rotation at BASSC in fall 2021, I was provided the opportunity and space to expand upon interventions that were implemented during this time, such as the adaptation of the interoception curriculum by Kelly Mahler and a procedural pairing to the Zones curriculum at select BASSC schools. Components for the project were delineated with the guidance of both on-site mentors and additional support from WashU OT capstone coordinator Jesse Bricker and faculty mentor Wanda Mahoney. Between April and August, virtual check-in meetings were conducted with mentors to gauge overall progress and further refine site-specific needs and goals. Current site strengths and challenges were then targeted and assessed via interview, classroom observation, and staff meetings. Themes were pulled from these data collection methods and synthesized into tools, such as one-pagers, administrator and educator protocols, and a family engagement concept map. These are intended to be used as a component of program quality assurance. Interprofessional collaboration was essential to the success of this project, which initially began with program administrators from 3 BASSC programs. Selection of administrative site mentor was based on specialized role, availability, proposed timeline, and readiness to collaborate. Virtual planning meetings were conducted during spring of 2022 to check in about site-specific needs and relevance of my capstone proposal prior to project implementation. I coordinated with a handful of classroom educators from Pathways Elementary School, Pathways Middle, and Franklin Elementary School to schedule classroom observations and informal interviews. A virtual PDU opportunity was developed to meet the established needs of trauma-specific training among BASSC staff based on a 2021 needs assessment. Each of the 3 training videos were developed through Microsoft PowerPoint. The videos were 20 to 25 minutes in length and intended to be completed in an individual asynchronous virtual format. A total of 2 CEU credit hours were advertised to program staff upon completion. The PDU opportunity was uploaded to a shared Google Drive folder housed within BASSC's existing documentation platform. Email announcements were sent to initially notify staff of the opportunity and to occasionally remind staff about the modules throughout the summer months. I made sure that I had continuous access to a BASSC-specific email and remain available via email and phone throughout this timeframe in case participants encountered access issues or barriers, which inevitably occurred. Staff participation in this training module provided insight into unique perspectives on virtual training opportunities and trauma-specific content regarding teaching and education approaches. The PDU entailed an introduction page about me, the presenter, pre-PDU resiliency scale and sign-in sheet, the 3-part video module series with respective knowledge checks, post-PDU resiliency scale and sign-out sheet, and additional resources for participants to expand upon introductory content on their own time. Here on the slide you can see a screenshot of what the platform looks like in terms of navigation, layout, user access, and opportunity to update content as often as needed. After engaging in the training module, 100% of the respondents were able to accurately identify the potential impact of toxic stress on students, the role of co-regulation and interoceptive awareness in the classroom, the influence of perceived threats on learning, the restorative nature of a relational classroom, and the key components of resiliency. Here on the slide is an example of an adapted resiliency scale that was uploaded into Google Drive for participants to complete prior to and after the training module. You'll notice selected resiliency scale results here from the trauma responsive PDU opportunity, which indicate an increase in participant scores at post-training. The PDU opportunity was intended to be made available to all staff across 2 BASSC programs throughout the summer months to reach a broader audience and higher staff engagement in trauma-specific professional development. While a total of 15 staff indicated some level of interest in this PDU opportunity, only 7 BASSC staff completed the entire training module. Therefore, 8 participants of those 15 did not complete the entire module series. Participants' knowledge of content was assessed after each video module via multiple choice quiz with Google Forms. Qualitative feedback was collected at training sign-out, and these results indicate real-world applicability and success of virtual educator training via OT consultation. In addition to pre-post PDU participant surveys, I conducted classroom observations and interviews to inform my recommendations. This largely shaped my assessment of program and site-specific factors, including how to determine next steps for creating an optimized learning environment for students. I met with administrators and related service providers, such as social work, to identify their professional interests or global approaches toward education, program-specific and site-specific strengths and challenges, and educator or classroom strengths and needs. Recommendations for educators were categorized into general suggestions for classroom use, while administrator recommendations were grouped by family engagement, tracking student progress, student trauma and learning, educator trauma and teaching, and embedded strategies. The resulting protocols were crafted with the assertion that BASSC will continue to pursue trauma-responsive education design at every level of the organization, which includes beyond this capstone project and its initial recommendations. Based on population needs, it is clear that a trauma-responsive protocol will be a useful tool to help provide the best supports for our staff and students. These proposals aim to provide tangible, actionable steps that can be taken by school staff and administrators to optimize the learning environment and service provision. These proposals are intended to be used as a guide which connects the reader to evidence-based resources and next steps toward consistent trauma-responsive program design that has potential to be applied across the BASSC network. The recommendations made are not only targeting student and educator development, but also emphasizing the vital role of family engagement and home connection. An external factor that impacted project outcomes included user access. Some participants were unable to access the PDU contents, and unfortunately, I wasn't alerted until later in the process, which may have contributed to the number of staff engagement that we saw in previous slides. In this way, what was intended to be a facilitator for higher staff engagement ended up being somewhat of a barrier. I recommend maintaining and updating training modules in the shared Google Drive folder and aim to review annually at minimum for potential edits. Staff satisfaction with PDU content can be assessed via pre-post participant surveys, including development of a survey for administrator satisfaction regarding applicability of protocol recommendations. When providing virtual and technology-based training modules, it is imperative that each staff member receive explicit training on how to navigate shared Google Drive and other Google-based platforms, including device and file navigation. Next steps include determining a cost sheet outline and timeframe for implementing the recommended curricular program trainings, such as time needed to implement, projected price, and when to implement. By sharing my project process and findings with you today, I hope to inspire other educational staff, administrators, and graduate students to pursue this encompassing lens toward trauma-responsive education design.